Some of you disc golfers need to chill out letting one basket hanging from a tree tick you off, or whatever you call these gimmicks you're always talking about ruining the game. Coming from the generation of disc golfers that grew up watching the Spin TV USDGC coverage on repeat, I never get upset about seeing the occasional tall basket, not even hole 6 of the Emporia RV Fun Park. Every year I have to hear the same complaints about people being pissed off about the mozzarella sticks, Christmas trees, throwing through gates, or whatever else bullshit they can muster up. But I'm having a hard time seeing the issue. You people tell me you don't want to be like mini golf, yet that sport has seen more TV time in a week than disc golf ever has. Random enough, I recently had a conversation with Jeremy Coling about this exact thing, and we both agreed adding aesthetically looking artificial assets to the course should be encouraged. Now this conversation sparked from one of the baskets being in a fucking gazebo, but why should that be a problem? Our sport is about throwing frisbees. I think it's pretty cool to be unique and do shit no other sport would. So yeah, put a basket in the middle of a tree, let me tee off from a mountain, or hit a gap made by bamboo sticks. I don't care. Although, there is a line before we get to be like Flying Armadillo. I agree that that's too much. Although, if done right, I don't see why it couldn't be fun. And Flying Armadillo, still fun as shit. I was just in Minnesota for the Majestic, which gave me the opportunity to play one of my favorite disc golf courses I've ever played. It also happens to push the gimmicks to the absolute max. In the early days of the course, it was actually known to experiment with crazy ideas just to test them out. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But that gazebo I was talking about earlier, yeah, that's on this course, plus plenty of other wacky stuff. Easily one of the best courses in Minnesota. No, I'm not talking about Blue Ribbon Pines, even though that's up there too. But I'm talking about Vision Quest, or I guess it's called the Hollows now, even though Vision Quest sounds so much cooler. For those that have played both are probably confused why I like this run-down forgotten course more than the one that pretty much set the standard for private property courses across the country. Pretty simple. I like the grime. Felt like it added to the mystique. 4 years ago, Swiss Cheese, yes, the one with all the holes in his game, and I randomly stumbled upon this course when we were on a disc golf road trip. I remember pulling up to an empty parking lot, and we didn't know if anyone had touched the property in years. But the first things you notice is the large ponds, basket on hills, and a huge-ass tower. From the time you enter, you get a sense of a lost disc golf paradise that continues throughout the course. As you walk down the fairways, you see junk cars, work sheds, and stuff that just doesn't belong. Like, how does a kissing booth get right here? Who knows? But what's the point of removing it? If anything, I'm upset it's not in play more. But it would feel way too tacky moving it at this point. Oh yeah, and there's a dick hole. Gotta respect it for that at least. It's been 4 years since I've played, and it's time to see if Kale LaVisca ruined a treasure memory of mine or not. I already like the tee pad change in hole 1. Now there's an actual line of the basket, not this sharp turn bullshit. This would be only one of the 9 holes that was changed, but it's looking good so far. I mean, couldn't do worse than a bogey. That's what I get for thinking big hyzer. Oh yeah, and I should warn you, this is the era my putt was really bad. Expect a lot of missed comebackers. I'm glad they kept the already existing infrastructure. For starters, makes the course complete, but also it's cool that the legacy will continue to live on. Again, I like the permanent change to the tee location. No reason to have people laying up on such a cool water carry. When you have amenities like this, you want them accessible for nearly everyone playing. It's only 300 feet to clear it, and from this spot, bailing out to the left is much easier, resulting in a lot less lost discs. And yeah, I went in the water you're not supposed to go in. Sue me.
I remember this basket used to be hanging, and I think last time I played, I was in that water. Fortunately trickled OB, so.
Not gonna lie, I'm a fan of hanging baskets, so I was disappointed to see that one gone, but I'm just gonna hope it was only for the tournament. Hole 4 is one of the more recognizable holes and another that stayed the same from the original layout. The gap off the tee is way tighter than the camera makes it look. Watch as I demonstrate here, and then again also here. At least this time I got my revenge. Peering the gap which set up for an easy forehand. Not even this stupid wind could mess that one up. How can you not be a fan of this tee shot? Throwing over the water on a long par 4, they even extended it farther and elevated it. You're probably going to get tired of hearing this by the end of the video, but again, I like this change, even though it's got one of these.
There's a Mando somewhere.
You're probably wondering why I'm not throwing through that wide open gap to the left.
There's a Mando somewhere.
Roller still put me in a position of birdie, but the basket made me think about the comeback putt way too hard, or I was probably just still thinking about...
There's a Mando somewhere.
Enjoy the clip of me getting the birdie on this hole back in 2020, because flash forward to today, and I mess up the easiest fucking forehand in my life. And saved by the basket, too. and it's Prodigy.
I didn't deserve that.
The walk through the back of the course shows off more of that grunge that I love. Changing holes 7, 8, and 10 is what took this course from good to great in my opinion. The old 7 had way too many trees off that drive.
That was not your gap, but you'll take it.
That's what I was going for.
Almost had to hope you didn't hit anything, but after the approach was easy to get close. Now the shot has two defined gaps. The straight up the gut or the more ideal forehand. Throw something that you know will crash and that should set up for another forehand approach. I just pinched myself a bit too much. Hole 8 seemed like it wanted to be hole 7 so bad, except gave a clear tee shot. This is when the course started to slip in my eyes. Now it's a 325-foot forehand or backhand. I'm a fan of allowing players to have equal opportunities to choose the type of shot they want.
That's fucking deep.
It's not often courses do this, and it's fun when the course turns their creativity up all the way, which is how I always felt about Vision Quest. Just look at the greens, for example. Almost every hole presents a unique challenge, even when it comes down to those tap-ins. The elevated basket on 9 makes players decide if they want to risk running it or miss and be penalized. Throughout the course, the location of the pins as well as the tees have thorough ideas around them, not just throwing a tee pad in the woods. And best of all, they look aesthetically pleasing. The obstacles look appealing to even people that don't play disc golf, which is important in my opinion. And I'm glad to see hole 10 being changed completely. I didn't like the hug forehand play, and it's not only because I hit first available. No, I think it was way better to use the elevation when it's presented, plus there's still a defined line that appeals to the backhand turnover instead of forcing sidearms. But yeah, the forehand's the play. I really like hole 11. Watch as I throw 3 shots to get all the way down the fairway, seemingly struggling the entire way. Now watch as I throw the wild honey far as fuck, leaving myself the easiest approach ever. How many times do I have to say it before you guys go get one?
That was a bomb.
Well, that's embarrassing. I couldn't name anything more Jefferson than throwing a drive that lands perfectly in circle 1, only for me to botch a putt. 4 years later, and the same shit. I think it's way smarter making the hill hole shorter, less lost discs, and more opportunity for fun. Went from throwing a full power destroyer to a putter. At least I'm on top this time. Not too sure why I always wanted to put my discs as close to the water as I can, but it's just what I do apparently. 2 of the sketchiest birdies I've ever gotten, but hey, a birdie is a birdie. This was at the point of my round when I realized I needed to start editing Monday's video on the disc golf world, so I'll let 19-year-old Jefferson show you guys hole 16. Which I fucked up, but what's new around here? And then 17. My drive puts me by these tires that are somehow here, and I love shit like this. I think it adds to the course's aura. They did move hole 18, so you no longer throw over the water. Instead, it's a 450-foot hyzer. Oh yeah, and the basket's in the gazebo now. It's kind of funny that you can see where it used to be too in the old video. So when Kale said it was there all this time, he wasn't kidding. So much cooler to take something so prominent in the old design and use it to preserve that culture. For those playing decades later, they'll be able to remember what Vision Quest was. I think it's just the wrestler in me, but being mad over the name would be as pointless as a lat drop when you only need the 2. Why the hell is it even called the Hollows anyway?
The place kind of got a bad rap for about 4 or 5 years when it was kind of let go, so we knew we wanted to change the name and the branding on it. But when we got here in September, all of the apple trees, there's about 40 of them on the property, and they were all just bursting with fresh apples. So we were about to actually call this place the Orchard. We were literally like about to have our artists start working on things and make the announcement and everything. And I talked to Odie, and I something about the Hollows just seemed like it was kind of like mystic and appropriate for the wooded holes and some of the areas back on this course. So literally at like the last hour, we changed it from Orchard to Hollows.
Whatever, I guess that's a cool story too. But I hope this shows how gimmicks shouldn't necessarily be looked down upon in our sport. And honestly, I think these are pretty light compared to the stuff I want to see. I think as long as they look aesthetically nice to the course, I say add it. How is it any different than a tree? Everyone likes to compare it to mini golf, but I think that's just bullshit. Why can't there be artificial obstacles brought in that make the game harder? Because I'll tell you what, spray painting a fucking line is the laziest thing you can possibly do to make a course harder. I'm sorry that your smooth brain can't be creative, but it's making our game look dumb as fuck. I would rather play the RV park on loop than the stupid elitist country club. I'll say it over and over again. We love this game because of the limitless options. There's no one way to get the disc to the basket. And it's awesome to see the array of shots that can be thrown from the same location. Guys, maybe I'm just crazy, but that's what I was thinking throughout my round over at the Hollows. As much as I talk shit about the name, I do actually prefer it. Now there's a distinction when talking about either layout. I will always love adding lore to the disc golf culture, especially when I can say I was a part of it. I feel like I'm always saying this, but thanks for watching this different style of course review sort of thing I did. At least this was my attempt of doing a course review of some sort, so if you enjoyed it, drop a comment and I'll line up some more of these videos. Or if not, just watch this video about the most underrated disc golf discs ever and you'll probably enjoy that way more. Or hey, if you enjoyed, maybe drop a sub. That always helps.
What's up guys, Jake Disc Golf here, and today we're at the first course of the Minnesota trip. As you can tell, we're at Vision Quest. This is one of the most highly recommended. You guys told me to play. So we're gonna jump into hole number 1 and see what this course is all about.